And maybe the most significant number is what 6% mean. 6% means they're 8,500 votes to significantly more.
And you have to wonder how representative Democrats who get their votes in early are of most Democrats. Anyway, up more. We'll have more with the exit polls as we continue tonight and the real poll results. Plus, New York Times columnist, that great liberal, Frank Rich, will join us and stay with us all night for speeches and analysis and concession speeches and perhaps some tears, perhaps some laughter. But certainly it looks like some history. You're watching MSNBC's live coverage of the New Hampshire primary. We're back from NBC News headquarters here in New York with MSNBC's live coverage of the New Hampshire primary. Let's check in with Patrick Buchanan, who's up in New Hampshire, and Rachel Maddow, who's elsewhere in New York. I want you to start, Rachel, and tell me what you think the significance might be of Hillary Clinton choking up a bit the other day.
Well, Hillary Clinton choking up a little bit was covered like it was the biggest news item yet of this political cycle. I was surprised, honestly, by how much it got. I thought immediately when I saw it, I felt sympathetic toward her. But, I mean, if it's newsworthy that a candidate cries or tears up, why is it that that led all three network newscasts last night? But when Mitt Romney cried in public 3 times in less than 3 weeks in December, we didn't hear peep one about it.
Well, what's your point?
I think there's a double standard. I think it's being covered because the media has this schadenfreude, this excitement in anything bad happening to the Clintons, particularly anything bad happening to Hillary Clinton. And so that's covered as if it's newsworthy on its face. But the double standard, the way that's not covered when other candidates do it, show that it's just a Hillary-specific thing.
A hard charge there, Pat Buchanan. This is schadenfreude, joy through others' tragedy. A nice long German word to explain that. The media is sadistic, a shorter Latinate word. Do you think the media and other political colleagues are sadistic towards Hillary Clinton and her plight?
I do think some media, Chris, are gleeful at what is happening to the Clintons and Hillary Clinton. I think the reason they covered this is because it is newsworthy. Hillary Clinton, contrary to what I heard earlier, has been the front runner for the Democratic nomination. She looked like the sure thing, the next president of the United States. And if you see someone in that moment, like Ed Muskie, when he was supposed to win the nomination in '72, break up in front of the union leader, that's a major news story.
But Pat,
and this was representative, I think, of a break, really, in Hillary's spirit that suggested she's going to lose and may lose the nomination.
Pat, why wasn't it news when Mitt Romney started crying? It's not like Mitt Romney is some C-level candidate for the Republicans. He's possibly their best hope. He cried
Chris
3 times.
Okay, Chris and I covered that speech when he got emotional, and we indicated that he had gotten emotional and said it was a very powerful moment.
But then he cried on Meet the Press.
It was a powerful moment.
Then he cried on Meet the Press. Then he cried while imagining that his sons might be in Iraq.
Well, let's be a little bit analytical here. It's one thing to cry about the fact that your religion, in his case the LDS Church, the Mormon Church, had moved away from racist practices of not allowing African Americans to be bishops, which all white people are allowed to do, and being overwhelmed emotionally by the fact that your church is now right with God as you see it, and being upset that you're losing a campaign for a public office. Isn't there a difference in quality there, Rachel?
But no, this was covered as if this said something about Hillary Clinton's ability to be president, that she cried. Did that mean she wasn't tough enough? Did that mean that she was breaking down under the strain? When Mitt Romney cried, he cried recounting having cried before about his church desegregating in the 1970s. He cried when he was moved by his own rhetoric during his religion speech. And then he cried again when he was imagining if his sons had joined the military and had found themselves in danger in Iraq.
But, Rachel, this was the day before the most important primary in America. The front runner and the putative president of the United States breaks up in front of all these cameras. It is a huge, huge news story, far bigger than Mitt Romney, who is not the front runner for the Republican nomination, doing it well before the day of the caucuses. It is a huge story, and there's no denying it. I do think reporters and journalists are gleeful about it. Some of them are.
If he cried 5 times in public, would that have made it a story? 6 times?
Rachel, hold on. Pat, hold on. I have a contrarian point of view. I think you're both wrong. What about this? Where was the coverage of the rest of that statement? Where was the coverage after the tearing up where people just clicked it off right there and said, oh, this is about a presidential candidate. I don't care if it's Ed Muskie or if it's Hillary Clinton or if it's Chris Matthews standing there crying, or not even crying, but seeming to just show a little emotion. But the second part of that was, hey, you know, and by the way, some of us are ready to compete here, and some of us are ready to be president, and others aren't, and some of us are right and others are wrong. There was a seamless, no-pause segue out of tears into an attack on her principal opponent. Isn't that the story?
Well, what it means is that she held it together and stuck to her talking points through it. So maybe that, for people saying that she was too emotional and couldn't hold on to the thread, maybe that should be a counter-argument to that.
I think you got an argument, Keith. Look, she went into something authentic and general, deeply moved when she was communicating with this person about how she felt. But then once she recovered, she moved right back onto the attack in Clinton mode. It is suggestive of exactly what you're dealing with.
Right.
A human being here at the same time, she can go right back onto the sort of automaton that a candidate becomes.
You know, your old boss and our old president, Richard Nixon, used to account for this. He said it's being tired. It's when you get near the end of a campaign, whether it's in a national debate or on television somewhere, and you simply are out of juice. You're out of that thing that allows you to get past a difficult moment. And I think that was the case. I think she's simply tired and therefore emotionally exposed. It doesn't surprise me. We've all been there. Thank you. Maybe not you, Pat. Thank you, Rachel Maddow. Thank you, Pat Buchanan.